Hi, Howie Mandel here, and I'm on YouTube. I mean, I know you're on YouTube, watching me on YouTube. I spend my day and night watching YouTube, and I thought, why don't I just go to YouTube to be on YouTube to talk about YouTube? You know what was one of my biggest influences? I always look for clips from old shows. I'm a huge Johnny Carson fan. Anybody who's in comedy, Johnny Carson was the epitome of getting a career. But even before I had a career, I used to watch it. And there are classic clips right here on YouTube that I watch. And if you don't mind, I'd like to present some of them to you. I'm waiting for you to answer. Maybe you could tape yourself, put it on YouTube, and I'll look at your answer. Okay, one of my favorite moments. I like the things that didn't look like they were rehearsed. The chip lady, he always talked to real people, and there was this old lady that had like a chip museum, and the chips, in her mind, would be in certain shapes of like George Washington or like famous people, and she held these chips. They were like they were her life. So he wanted to look at a chip, and he took the chip, and when she was looking the other way, he actually switched out her chip and ate a chip. But she turned back and thought that he ate her museum piece, and it was just priceless to see the look on her face. It's not so good when I describe it. It's better when you watch it. Look at this. People always ask me, Howie, who do you admire in comedy? I always have, always do, and still remain admiring Steve Martin. I think he's brilliant. And I could not wait for him to show up. Anytime he showed up on The Tonight Show, I was thrilled. One of the times he did what has now become a classic bit, The Great Flydini, where he played a magician who pulls everything out of his fly. Well, not everything, but all the magic happened in his fly. Again, watch this. This doesn't only go for me, but all of America. There was some polarizing moments on The Tonight Show, and I think those were showed by having huge ratings. Tiny Tim. And if you don't remember Tiny Tim, he sang Tiptoe Through the Tulips in a falsetto, and he had kind of a weird look. He got married on the show. He got married on The Tonight Show, and I think this proved to be one of the highest rated Tonight Shows ever. I wasn't invited to the wedding, but you're invited to watch it. I loved when things just happen spontaneously. I do that in my act now, and the things that inspired me was Don Rickles co-hosted, filled in for Johnny one night, and when he filled in for Johnny, he broke the cigarette box, Johnny's cigarette box on the desk. But he didn't say anything, he just closed it and put it back together. The next night, Johnny was back and noticed that the cigarette box was broken. As it happens, Don Rickles had a sitcom taping right across the hall called CPO Sharky. Johnny realized that his cigarette box was broken. He was told who did it, and live on TV that night, he went across the hall and confronted Don Rickles on his own show. It was live, it was edgy. I had never seen anything like it before. It was exciting. Watch this. The Tonight Show, had its own kind of vibe, and you kind of understood when you watched it every night. You knew that the first guest was probably, the most important guest, the biggest name. And then it was also kind of, it was a window into the world of Hollywood, because the first guest would speak to Johnny and do whatever talk about whatever they were going to talk about, and then they had to run. They didn't stay, traditionally people stayed around the whole time. They stayed for the next guest and they would move down the couch. But sometimes they had a premiere to go to, they were being jetted off somewhere, and it was a window into Hollywood because they had to go. And that was always exciting when they said, I can't stay, I gotta go, my premiere's tonight, and they would leave. The one memory I have is Steve Martin was on, and he was the first guest. And he was very funny. And he did his thing, and then he said, Johnny, I have to go, I have things to do, and he left. Now during the next guest, I can't remember who the next guest was, but I'll remember as soon as I watch it on YouTube here, he comes back out, or maybe it was right before, he comes back, and he admits, I didn't have any place to go. I just wanted to feel important, just like everybody else who had something to do. I have no place to go. And I thought that was a classically funny moment. I still think it is. I tried for the life of me to get on The Tonight Show, and I couldn't get on The Tonight Show. And as luck would have it, Joan Rivers saw me, and she put me on The Tonight Show. And then, again, as luck would have it, Johnny saw me appear with Joan and asked me to come back 3 weeks later. So this, my very first Johnny Carson show with Johnny Carson was, I can't tell you how my nerves were. I can't tell. And I came on as somebody who was on St. Elsewhere, so I didn't do stand-up per se. I sat on the panel, but I am a stand-up, so I wanted to do all my comedy on the panel. Well, you have to do a pre-interview. You know, you sit down, and traditionally they do know what he's going to ask, and he knows what my answers were going to be. But I figured, this is my one shot. I'm just going to do something outrageous, and I know that if I pass this by the powers that be, they'll say, no way, it won't go for Johnny. And here was the idea. I said I was going to ask Johnny if he liked 3D movies. And if he did, and even if he didn't, I was going to say, I love them, try on these 3D glasses. And I was going to get him to wear 3D glasses, and then I was just going to start whipping things at his face and ask him, doesn't it look like it's coming right at you? Now, if I had asked the producers, can I throw things in Johnny Carson's face? I'm sure they would have said no. So I didn't ask. So you can imagine the fear in me as I'm waiting to do this, because I know that if it doesn't go well, this is the last time I'm going to be seeing Johnny Carson without the frame of a television screen around him. And it could be the beginning of a big career. As it turned out, well, I don't know if I want to give it away, but I will. It worked out good for me, and I ended up doing 22 appearances with Johnny Carson because of this one moment. Watch this. I like to think of myself as a child of YouTube. I live, eat, and breathe YouTube. And now I'm honored that some of the things I do end up on YouTube. I'm doing a great moment. I don't know if it's funny as much as it is funny and emotional, is I'm doing this show called Mobbed, where flash mobs get together and share messages that change people's lives. So something that should be intimate and just shared between two people, we have 1,000 people in a big dance musical number share the message. And the very first one, the special that aired on Fox, was a proposal. And it's like the biggest proposal ever. I think that's what the title on YouTube is. And you could see it on YouTube. And you know what? Even though I did it and I was there, I click on it a lot. I hope you do too. So I'm not only a YouTube fan, I am raising YouTubians. My kids actually do it. If you click on Simon the Dancing Gummy Bear, is it Simon the Dancing Gummy Bear? Simon the Dancing Bear, you could see my son Alex. I can't tell you how proud I am. And I think once you see it, you realize why I feel such pride. That's my boy. YouTube has not only become something I watch, something I'm doing, something my kids are doing, it's become a big part of my job at America's Got Talent. In fact, we have a YouTube special where we are actually, you can go to YouTube and audition. Jackie Evancho last year was found off of YouTube. That's how we found Jackie Evancho, who is a 10-year-old operatic superstar who had the biggest selling album in the world over Christmas, I think #2 in the world, from YouTube. So you can launch a career here, and we launch many. So if you go check out AGT, you'll see some of the careers we are launching. Thank you, YouTube. I wish it was MeTube.